The Alpine mountains of Scandinavia. It's an unforgiving environment where the harsh winter creates a seemingly lifeless void of ice and snow. But one small creature beats the odds, and every few years it emerges unexpectedly from under the snow and becomes a social media sensation.
I want to see a lemming.
The Norway lemming might just be the most famous and misunderstood animal in this part of the world.
Hi, little lemming.
And for all it knows, it's a ferocious rodent with a killer instinct. No doubt in the Nordic mountains, the lemming is the little giant. Then the lemmings are gone. Seasons pass without any sign of them. So where do they go? And when will they reappear? Stretching 1,700 kilometers across Norway and Sweden, the Scandinavian Alpine region is a world created by the glaciers of the last ice age. Straddling the Arctic Circle, this is a land defined by ice and snow, where winter reigns for most of the year. Winter temperatures can plunge below -40 Celsius, immobilizing the water by nature's own sculpting craft. Harsh enough to impede most life, still, this is where we find some of the world's oldest trees, with roots and clones almost 10,000 years old. But if life above the snow is a challenge, life beneath is a different story. Lemmings. The Norway lemming is a small rodent that lives only in Scandinavia. During winter, it feeds on mosses under the snow. And while they're mostly solitary animals, winter circumstances often force them to congregate. Under a warming blanket of snow, they find refuge from the weather and potential predators. As tension grows in cramped quarters, some young males get the urge to take a daring hike. In hopes of finding a welcoming female around the corner. The young male is quick on the draw and leaves nothing to chance. But he soon finds he wasn't invited to the party. The lemmings build up their populations quietly under the snow. In some years, their numbers can explode. And this is what helped create the myth about lemmings that lives on unabated. Just why the lemming population peaks every 4th year or so is still a bit of a mystery. But when it happens, it sets the scene for a spectacular lemming year in the Nordic tundra. The raven is ever present in this environment, tolerating the freezing temperatures with ease. The red fox, however, has benefited from climate change, expanding its territories from the forests to the tundra at higher altitudes. The red fox's intrusion into this land has made it a player in the realm of the lemming. When the sun returns, temperatures rise, while foxes and ravens await the next chapter in the lemming story. And this next chapter brings one more player to the surface. The Arctic fox. Having survived here since the Ice Age, the Arctic fox now faces regional extinction. There are only 300 to 400 adult Arctic foxes left in Scandinavia. Subsisting mostly on lemmings, it has suffered from a lack of prey for decades. Good lemming years have become rare, but hopefully this year will be different. But she won't go hunting just yet. It's too dangerous to be exposed to predators in broad daylight. Instead, she relies on a stash of lemmings she caught earlier, now hidden in a natural fridge close to her den. Even in a year with a sparse lemming population, her survival chances are good. But for her potential offspring, a good lemming year is a must. If she's lucky, as many as a dozen pups can be born and survive. In a bad year with few rodents, it can be a total loss. Most other animals leave these mountains in the autumn, migrating to the forests at lower altitudes. Despite the enchanting beauty, the taiga forest can still be a forbidding place. Reindeer spend the winter here. Grazing now means finding the right forest, because their food hangs from the trees, lichen. Lichen is their winter staple, but finding it is no easy feat, because it's cold and the reindeer need to eat a lot. The food is sparse, and sometimes hard to reach. Their hooves are like shovels that can lay the ground bare and allow the reindeer to reach the lichen under the snow. For the much taller moose, deep snow is no obstacle. Feeding on needles and twigs, their food supply is more abundant. Still, it's a trying time for all, and they can face starvation and death at any time. In the twilight darkness of the long winter nights, a phantom of the forest benefits from the spoils of winter. The elusive wolverine is a bad hunter, but a very effective scavenger. It will return to this reindeer carcass many times. After months of low light, the sun climbs higher in the sky, and its signals change. Deep in the genes of many species, evolving over thousands of years, the light triggers an urge to move. Scandinavian reindeer are semi-domesticated. For most of the year, they live as wild animals in the vast expanses of the north. But for the spring migration back to the alpine highlands, they are herded by their owners, the Sami, the indigenous people of the north. Reindeer husbandry dates back hundreds of years. The knowledge is passed from generation to generation. They follow ancient migration routes over frozen rivers and lakes for hundreds of kilometers. It's a long trek. It can take up to 2 weeks to reach the mountains. And the Sami must time the migration just right. Early enough so the river ice is still thick enough to travel on, but late enough so the pastures are bare when they arrive in the faraway highlands. The bonds of winter are finally fully broken. When the thaw starts, the ground is still frozen. Water saturates the land, creating a patchwork of streams, temporary ponds, and wetlands. It's a disaster for the confused lemmings. The protective roof of snow is gone, exposing them to predators. They're desperate to seek new shelter, but they also must deal with the water on the flooded tundra. On the search for new territory, their movement in the spring sparked a popular myth that this was a mass exodus. This is most likely not true. What people have seen has been exaggerated. Of course, they don't intend to kill themselves. This is simply their migratory behavior. Lemmings on the move need to cross bodies of water, not to commit suicide, but just to get to the other side. Lemmings are good swimmers. Their fur holds a lot of air, keeping them buoyant. Of course, some will fail. And again, this feeds the myth of the suicidal lemming. Having survived one nightmare, the lemmings soon come face to face with another. The long-tailed skua. This master flyer has spent the winter near the South Polar region, on the other side of the world. Now, it must find nesting ground to continue its life cycle during a very short summer period. They're out on a scouting flight. If there's enough food, which means enough lemmings, they will stay. If not, they'll depart and come looking again next year. The hunt is on, and it's shaping up to be a good lemming year. The red fox is getting wind of this too, and it scours the land in search of food, venturing higher up in the mountains, to areas where it was scarce in the past. This time, the long-tailed skua is the successful hunter. But the skuas are not real raptors. They lack the talons and beaks of birds of prey. Devouring a lemming becomes hard work, and the couple teams up to dismember the prey. Working together creates a strong bond before the start of the nesting season. Thawing is a process lasting weeks and months, well into the summer. The rivers run free again, becoming a majestic force of the north. Moose also migrate back to the highlands. But unlike the reindeer that team up with the Sami people, they must find their way by themselves. The swollen, icy rivers look quite threatening. The moose use age-old shallow crossings, where many generations of moose have made it safely to the other side. Still, it's no easy decision. They're good swimmers, but the strong current could easily sweep them away. Safely across, they continue. The increased water flow of the millions of creeks running down from the hillsides sends signals downstream. It's an open invitation to fish waiting to perform their annual upstream migration. It's been 4 years since this grayling hatched in this small brook. For the first time in its life, it returns to spawn. But it will not come alone, and competition for the best territory and the most fertile females will incite conflict. Males arrive first in large numbers, and with their dorsal fins turned red, they signal they are prepared to attract the females and defend their chosen underwater territory. And the battles are quite fierce. A few days later, the females swim into the area. This is what the males with the red fins were waiting for. The couples look for a bottom substrate where the females can easily deliver their eggs. Initially used to flash down a partner, the dorsal fins are then used to brace receptive females during release of milt and roe. A female can produce as many as 20,000 eggs, but it will be a few weeks before they hatch, and several more weeks before the offspring too swim downstream. The graylings only stay here to mate, and after only a few days, the adults retreat to the lakes and big rivers. The reindeer are still on the move towards the alpine meadows. But before leaving the birch forest, they use its scant protection to give birth close to the tree line. With predators lurking nearby, it's imperative that the calf gets up on its legs immediately. But it's not that easy. Once on its feet, it can also start suckling. Reindeer calves are usually single births. Within a few days, the herd must be on the move again, with the small ones floundering around. The reindeer follow their instincts as pastures open up in their higher mountain areas. It's hard to believe that the little giants of these mountains, the lemmings, play a significant role in the lives of the reindeer, but they do. With the snow melting away, their bustling activity under it has left unmistakable evidence of their presence. The droppings of the ever-hungry rodents cover large patches of the tundra that's otherwise poor in nutrients. The added fertilizer will possibly increase plant growth to the benefit of the reindeer and other grazing animals. Finally, the reindeer calves have reached the summer pastures for the first time. It's still early and food is scarce. The reindeer must rely on lichen until green plants start to grow. This is a dangerous time for the calves. Out in the open, they're in the predator's sights. For the golden eagle, a young calf is easy prey. There is safety in the herd. Falling behind is a deadly mistake. Up to 50% of the reindeer calves may die in the first 2 months of their lives. The majority of them fall prey to the different predators that rule this land. Summer is here. North of the Arctic Circle, the sun shines 24 hours a day now. Plants and animals make the most of the short season, especially the busy lemmings, whose lifespan is only about 2 years. They stay active around the clock, grazing as much as they can between short periods of sleep. They don't dig their own burrows, but create cozy nests in cracks and holes. Soon the reproductive frenzy is in full swing. A female lemming can give birth to as many as 12 young ones in a brood. The babies are born blind and furless. They grow quickly on the milk provided by their busy mother. The youngsters leave their nest after only 2 weeks and may already reproduce before they're 1 month old. Conditions are favorable, the population grows quickly, and the female can become pregnant again. The next litter could be due in 3 to 4 weeks. After the simple diet of mosses through the winter, fresh grass is a real treat. With thousands and thousands of nests scattered over the tundra, the population literally explodes. So the story repeats itself, in a good year perhaps with 6 litters. Nearby, another animal broadcasts its own fox news. The message? Life is good for the Arctic fox this year. The female heads out on a hunt. The Arctic fox appears in different color varieties. Some, like this female, are very dark. She will turn as white as snow in the winter. Around the den, there are obvious signs that this is a good year for the foxes. The large number of lemmings has given the Arctic fox a chance to reproduce. They have 6 healthy pups. Not an extraordinary number, but it's good for a species that has been on the verge of extinction in Scandinavia for many decades. In a bad lemming year, almost all of the pups may die. But for now, it looks promising. The den is a burrow with a maze of tunnels under the ground. The site can be very old, with generations of Arctic foxes making it their home. Some believe this Arctic fox castle may have been occupied for hundreds of years. For the bravest pups, it's time to explore the surroundings. Oops, what's this? Cold water is a bit of a surprise for this pup. And worse, now he's stuck alone on the wrong side of the creek. But they learn from their mistakes, and the pup finds a safer and drier way back to the den. The Arctic fox den is greener than its surroundings because the animals fertilize the soil with their waste and the carcasses of their prey. Thanks to the masses of lemmings this year, life flourishes on the vast tundra. With plenty of food available, the long-tailed skua has decided to breed this summer. The young have already hatched. When a pale brown color Arctic fox cruises the area, the chicks could be in danger. The mother signals to the bigger chick to leave the nest. It's safer to hide nearby. But the skua is a fierce fighter. And this time, the fox loses the battle. The youngest one-day-old chick is still in the nest, and the female quickly covers it against the cold wind. The older chick has ventured out into the surrounding area. Perhaps the next day, his sibling too will leave the nest, and they will disperse. Their parents will still feed them for several weeks in the undergrowth. This behavior can increase their chance of survival. This time, the mother still wants him back. And of course, the older chick still prefers the warm protection under Mama's wing, and to be the first to get food when it's delivered. They feed on lemmings when they're available, but they're not picky and will devour other small animals, fish, insects, and even berries. At last, summer is in full swing in the Scandinavia mountains. While the reindeer have migrated up to the tundra, the moose prefer to stay in the wooded areas, where they find plenty of food. In the middle of the summer, flowers blossom and insects are abundant. And the lemmings just keep doing what they always do: eat and breed. Summer temperatures can climb above a balmy 25 degrees Celsius. For the reindeer, this is too much, and they often seek cooling shelter on the remaining snowfields, where they also escape mosquitoes. The male Arctic fox returns to the den. The pups eagerly await his return, growing fast and constantly hungry. They beg for food, but this time, there's nothing to be had. The male seems more annoyed by the attention. This is the result of not trying harder with the skewers. But there is still hope. The female returns. And her hunting went a lot better. She's got a mouthful of lemmings. A good lemming year with successful reproduction gives this threatened species a new lease of life. The male heads out for another try. Maybe this time he'll be lucky. The pups are almost as big as the female now, and with nasty bites, she warns them that they'll have to leave the den someday soon. Lemmings are now emerging everywhere. They seem to occupy every available crack. With their perfect camouflage, they look like tiny living rocks on the run. And indeed, they are on the move, looking for more available territory and new partners. The new generation is out and hungry. They eat a lot. The growing lemming population eventually eats all the food they need for their survival. Available food, rather than the abundance of predators, could be the reason for their cyclical appearance. And this could be one explanation for the mythological migration of lemmings. But it's not a total myth. Lemmings do migrate, and moving down to lower elevations near the tree line gives them a better chance of survival. Food is still abundant here, and a first wave of lemmings is already coming. In years when their numbers explode, there can be as many as 150 lemmings in an area the size of a football pitch. With the population density so high, lemmings defend their turf. Don't mess with a stressed-out pregnant mum. This is her territory now. This is some of the last true wilderness in Europe. With most of the land far away from population centers, the threat to the region is of a different kind. climate change is the new culprit. Glaciers are retreating, leaving land bare for the first time in thousands of years. With the temperature changes, the present tundra will no longer be a barren land above the tree line. Forests are already on the move, with tall spruce trees climbing ever higher. And the warmth allows for one special, individual tree to finally reach for the sky. It's a single Norway spruce, famously known as Old Chico. It started growing nearly 10,000 years ago at the end of the Ice Age. Over the millennia, it survived by creeping along the ground, not sending a tree shoot above the snow, where chilly winds would kill it. Clones have covered large areas, with the original root system still intact. Today, Old Chico is a monument of changing times to come. Lemming populations used to peak every 4 years. Today, these peaks are fewer and further apart. Even slight changes in climate have a drastic impact on animals living here. Some will benefit. Some will suffer. It looks like the lemming could be in for a rough ride. The peak summer season ends in August. The reindeer have begun to rut, with the big bull controlling his harem of females. He must defend all flanks, preventing females from straying too far and keeping younger bulls at bay. It's work around the clock. And a very exhausting exercise. But don't be fooled. He's fully aware of what's going on around him. Young bulls engage in fighting, preparing themselves to take on the real heavyweight champion. But for now, there's no doubt who the champ is here. That settled, back to business. The autumn brings another change to the mountains. When the green chlorophyll in the leaves of deciduous trees breaks down and disappears, the remaining reds and yellows dominate for a short period of time. In peak years, with food resources depleted, the lemmings migrate even further down the slopes and deep into the forests. No doubt there is more food for them there. Feeding mostly on mosses, they will find grass, sedge and seeds in abundance. But they will soon also realize they have competitors. Wood lemmings. A close relative, one of the rodents to contend with. This is the queen of lemmings, ruling in a matriarchal society where as many as 75% of lemmings are females. And some of the females give birth only to females. When their population increases, they too can face starvation, which forces them to migrate. And under those circumstances, the pressure from invading relatives is another threat. The Norway lemmings desperately try to settle down, but this is a strange, unknown world for them. Everything looks so different. What starts out as a friendly encounter with their cousins soon turns hostile. The much larger Norway lemming could easily kill the wood lemming. But such occasions are few and far between. Now, this is different. This is an animal that can kill both. The lemmings share this forest with the brown bear. But in the autumn, the bear prepares for hibernation and is focused on gorging itself on berries. In fact, it's so focused, it doesn't even notice there are other, much smaller critters around. It's been a good year for the Norway lemmings, and for the animals that feed on them. But for all the lemmings that came this far from the tundra, this is also the end of the road. Outside their primary range, they face more predators, more challenges, and the forest that fed them now becomes their graveyard. In lemming years, the masses of exhausted lemmings fall victim to disease and the dangerous crossing of rivers and lakes. Maybe it's images like this that fed the old myth about lemmings committing suicide. But the truth is simpler than that. It's just a tough environment, and circumstances take their toll. And the lemming year has come to an end. The very few surviving lemmings now depend on a good winter, with plenty of snow to create the protective layer of insulation. Now the days are short, with shadows growing longer and longer, as the region close to the Arctic Circle settles in for the long winter night. With solar particles hitting the Earth's magnetic field close to the North Pole, the solar wind brightens the sky with the lights of the aurora borealis. Even if reindeer are semi-domesticated, it's their natural instinct to move that sets off the migration. They stay at higher altitudes as long as they find food. But for their survival, they need to find winter pastures. It's another long migration, and the Sami families will work together to bring the herd to safety during the short daylight hours, down to the lowland forests. The Scandinavian alpine region now looks desolate and devoid of animals. If conditions allow, it can take 3 to 4 years until the lemmings build up their population again. And the stage is set for a new drama. The red fox has become the latest intruder in the Nordic mountain landscape. Climate change has opened the door to them. A reindeer carcass becomes an important source of food for the scavenging red fox, and for the crow, who dares to challenge the fox for the prize. A reindeer carcass like this one provides an extremely rare feeding opportunity. But it doesn't last long. Now that the lemmings are gone, food abundance is over. The red fox must find more to eat to make it through the brutal winter. And now a new battle is playing out. The red fox is challenging its relative, which has reigned supreme on the tundra. Twice its size, it easily kills an Arctic fox. Maybe outsmarting the red fox on one occasion will save this particular Arctic fox. But the reality of climate change favors the red fox. It can now venture into lands that used to be out of range. It will outcompete on all fronts. For food, taking over dens, and killing Arctic foxes and their cubs. Lemmings must also adapt to the changing climate. And maybe still, somewhere under the blanket of snow, the last lemmings survive. Humans will not detect their presence until the next good lemming year. But the lemming couldn't care less about the people above it. In its world, it is still the little giant of the north.
The steep coast at the southern tip of Africa. Inaccessible and rugged. But there's one animal that feels right at home here. Cute, but can be fierce. Always sociable. And seemingly designed for life on the edge. The Dassie, or rock hyrax. The animal is virtually unknown in Europe, as it's not found anywhere in the wild there. It's not a groundhog, although it might look like one. It isn't a rodent either. The Dassie is unique. There's nothing remotely like it, not even its nearest relatives. Surprisingly, its closest genetic relatives are the elephant and the manatee, or sea cow. But their habitats couldn't be more different. Dassies live in places that are inaccessible to most other animals. They're accomplished climbers. Narrow crevices and steep overhangs, no problem. Up above, the sun deck calls. A favourite gathering place for Dassies. Around 20 females and their clan chief live in this rocky cliff colony. They're well protected from the elements by their thick coats. Their teeth make good grooming aids. An elongated claw on their back feet is ideal for scratching too. Apart from that, Dassies have no claws or toes that might help them when climbing, so how do they do it? The leathery soles of their feet are like little suction pads, giving them a firm hold for even the most daring maneuvers. At the foot of the rocks lie their grazing grounds. This is where they feed on flowers, grasses and lichens. They only spend about an hour each day foraging. But it's a wary 60 minutes. Foraging and eating are dangerous times. Distracted and separated from their usual cover, they become ideal prey for aerial predators. The African black eagle is particularly fond of Dassies. If they spot him first, they scatter. But if the eagle is lucky, they might be too late. This time, he's successful. The other Dassies hide away between the rocks. It will be some time before they dare to come out again. Every male Dassie has his own song, like the head of this colony. He uses it to convey his status to the females. His chosen partner can hear who she's about to engage with, and he can scent whether she is ready to receive him. But she decides whether she actually wants him, and that can take a while. The female Dassie is only fertile for a few days each year. So he has to seize every opportunity. He doesn't always succeed at first, but he doggedly pursues her. And finally, it pays off. This little interlude will bear fruit, and the clan chief will also mate with other females. As the South African summer draws to an end, so does the Dassie's mating season. Many of the colony's females are pregnant. Now they have to get through the winter. During the following 5 months, tremendous storms rage across the countryside. They bring with them cold and rain. The damp climate is a blessing for the region's plant life. But it makes the thermophilic Dassies retreat to their rocky fortress for shelter. They don't venture forth in this kind of weather. But all it takes is for the winter sun to peep out between the clouds and the rocks come alive again. Dassies need warmth to get them moving, because in cold weather, their body temperature sinks by several degrees. It saves energy, but they do need the sun to warm them up again. Especially the pregnant females. Stretching out in the warm sand is very good for this mum-to-be's swollen belly. Unlike the Dassie, South African fur seals have no body temperature problems. They have a thick layer of fat and a water-repellent coat to protect against loss of body heat in the chilly 15-degree water. They can start hunting at any time, regardless of whether the sun is there to warm them up or not. They actually only come ashore to rest at breeding time and to raise their young. A rocky outcrop jutting into the sea is the ideal spot for all of that. The younger animals mostly gather at the water's edge. They don't seem to mind the odd dousing while they relax. The best places are on top of the rocks, and the seals make every effort to get there, although their bodies aren't really suited to climbing. Fights often break out over prime locations. Only the patriarch rules unchallenged over his space. Kelp gulls are much feared cohabitants of the southern African coast. They are aggressive and patrol long distances in their search for prey. Dassies have no reason to fear them, though. They just carry on soaking up the sun on the warm rocks. They're sociable creatures and enjoy being in company. Sometimes they even go to the toilet together. These latrine areas are used by all the animals in the colony. A very well-fertilized spot for plants. The nutritious nectar in these blossoms attracts pollinators. Not an insect this time, but a female elephant shrew. She's in great need of the energy-rich nectar, as she has offspring to feed. Elephant shrew babies are born at the end of winter. This means that here in the Western Cape region of South Africa, spring is just around the corner. Shortly after the start of spring, the Dassies also give birth to their young. Each mother has 2 or 3 babies. Immediately after they're born, the babies are able to see and romp about on their own. Under the watchful eye of their mother, of course. It's still cold here at the coast. For the little ones, that means they have to huddle together to keep warm. They still have to get used to their airborne neighbours, and they're easily startled. But the adult animals are unperturbed. The African red-winged starling isn't dangerous. Or is it? At any rate, it can be really annoying. The young in the nursery group are all more or less the same age. But they have very different characters. Some of them are more adventurous and want to discover the world around them. Although that world is still limited to their mother's vicinity. In the first few days of their lives, the young survive solely on their mother's milk. Suitably refreshed, it's time for a high-spirited romp. This little daredevil is particularly energetic. The peaceable adult Dassies are generally tolerant of their lively offspring, with some exceptions. While the females take care of bringing up their young, the clan chief watches over his extended family. He's young and strong, and reigns undisputed over his kingdom. He does not tolerate strange males. Should one of them from a nearby colony enter his territory, it's a declaration of war. This old fellow is clearly too close. And the clan chief takes up the chase. Nobody disputes his territory. The old intruder knows when to give up. On the other side of the cliff, he's the boss. His colony lives among the coastal rocks near an old lighthouse, with penguins and cormorants. The neighbours' hygiene standards leave a lot to be desired. They deposit their droppings everywhere, unlike the Dassies. They use their latrine areas for generations, sometimes even centuries, always at the same spot. Collections of pollen and seeds from the distant past are often found among the deposits, making them especially interesting for climate researchers. Not so much for penguins, though. The old clan chief has done his business. A quick sand bath nearby is a good way to clean up. And now it's time to relax. His family is used to their noisy neighbours. Even the mothers and their babies don't mind the constant clamour. In the middle of spring, the cormorant's brood period begins. First, they have to sort out who is going to stay where. There's loud fighting over the best nesting places. Sometimes too loud. The most ruthless pair wins, securing a prime spot in the shade. The losers will have to breed in the blazing sunshine. Meanwhile, the spring sun is gaining strength. It's getting hot. Even the thermophilic Dassies retire to the shade in the middle of the day, or they could overheat. Up here in the rock colony, there are plenty of cooler places, but the young can be quite a nuisance. The little daredevil sets off on his own. His curiosity has been aroused by a lizard. The lizard is in hunting mode. It only has eyes for its winged snacks. The little one strays further and further away from the group. He's tempted by some nice fresh greenery, even though he's much too young to be able to digest it. His sister prefers to stay with their mother. She's still keeping a watchful eye on her daring offspring. He's ventured into open ground, far from any safe bolt hole. But the high-spirited little Dassie has no idea that his expedition could be dangerous. His playful instinct is too strong. The adults keep an eye out on the skies too. They can actually look straight at the sun without it damaging their eyes, as they have a special membrane that protects them. So they do not fail to notice the eagle that has been trying to conceal itself in the glare of the sun. A cry of alarm, and most of them react instantly. A last warning finally reaches the little explorer. This time, the eagle draws a blank and moves on. For today, the Dassies are safe in the shelter of their rocky hollows. But the attack has nonetheless taken its toll. Even Dassies can sometimes lose their footing and plunge to their death. Dawn in the lighthouse colony. The penguins are already up and about. At first light, they're off hunting in the sea. Fish are their main prey. The king gull, meanwhile, goes foraging along the shore. A nice fish is a welcome meal to start the day. But this one is a little hard to handle. The thief seizes the opportunity. Can it swallow this big creature whole? Fish and sand, delicious, no problem. Just after sunrise, with the Dassies still fast asleep in their caves, the penguins have been active for ages. These two have something in mind. What looks like an argument is in fact just the opposite. It's a courtship ritual. Mating is a real balancing act. And it's all over by the time the Dassies wake up. The old clan chief of this colony is used to the penguins' hustle and bustle. A fur seal is a much less common sight, though. They rarely come to rest among the penguins. The birds keep a respectful distance. Even though on land, the portly colossus doesn't pose them a serious threat. In the sea, on the other hand, it's a different story. Now and then, fur seals will also hunt penguins in the water. Although it isn't the penguin itself that is the target. It's the fresh fish in its belly that the seal is after. For the penguin, the outcome is the same. On land, however, life is a bit more peaceful. At least among the lighthouse Dassie colony. The cormorants are having a more stressful time of it. It's early summer and they have nests to build. They'll use anything as long as it can be woven into the nest. But suitable materials are in short supply, and looking for them is exhausting. That doesn't affect the Dassies, though. In the nursery, the little ones are frolicking in the sand. Here and there, they will look for things to eat, even though they're still mainly dependent on their mother's milk. Sparse vegetation between the coastal rocks makes a good in-between snack. The cormorant, meanwhile, has come across some building supplies. But not every find can be transported safely back home. There are plenty of thieves lying in wait. And whoever wins the tug of war for nest material can quickly get on with the business of breeding. Eggs in a nest attract robbers who lurk in wait. An airing helps cope with the heat. It's just what the gull was waiting for. But a single egg is not enough to still its hunger. So the search continues and takes it past the rock colony. The young Dassies are already a few weeks old. Apart from mother's milk, they're also eating plant food. The little daredevil ventures furthest. Padded feet and an excellent sense of balance help him retain his footing in the swaying, thorny branches. Getting back out of the bush is tricky. Just how daring his acrobatic feat actually was can be seen by the drop. On the beach, the gull has spied its next meal. The crab hasn't a chance. Its hard shell and strong claws are no contest for the gull's sharp beak. It's the perfect tool for cracking open a crab, but it's still not that straightforward. Today, the gull's foraging excursion along the beach has paid off. For the Dassies, although gulls might pose no danger, they can still be quite a nuisance. With a full belly, the kelp gull flies off back to its own colony, where it's eagerly awaited. Its young are hungry. Today there's crab with egg, a nourishing mash for its offspring. The chicks are real gluttons and will soon be demanding second helpings. Among the rocks above, the lizard has established its territory in a Dassie latrine area. Any intruders are quickly chased away. It stakes its territorial claim by doing press-ups. The Dassies don't bother it at all. After all, they're the reason why it lives in the lap of luxury. The scent of their waste attracts insects such as ants. All the lizard has to do is wait until its prey comes along. The plentiful food supply lures others of his kind. But no one gives up their feeding ground without a fight. The latrine areas play an important role for many rock dwellers. At night, the elephant shrew is a frequent visitor. It's on the lookout for its favorite food. Aside from nectar, it also loves insects. Beetles, for instance. They are often to be found among the pellet-like Dassie droppings. And a few ants for dessert. how much poorer its life would be without the Dassie latrines. Nighttime can bring with it some magical light shows. Not only the stars twinkle, mysterious lights also dance on the sea's surface. The blue shimmer is caused by millions of minuscule luminous sea creatures. Reacting to the movement of the waves and other disturbances in the water, they emit light impulses. The natural wonder ends at dawn. It's a warm summer's morning in the rock colony. The young Dassies have meanwhile become quite independent. Today, the entire nursery group meets to take a sand bath. It's more than just pleasure, it also protects them from parasites. But the little daredevil has something else in mind today. He's set his sights on a female. At 2 months, he's not yet sexually mature. But of course, practice makes perfect. The young female Dassie isn't particularly impressed with this game. Her escape takes her into dangerous territory. Though even adult animals don't always recognize impending doom. A puff adder hides in wait. It's an ambush predator. The fleeing instinct finally kicks in, but too late. The poison kills swiftly. All the snake needs to do is wait until it has taken effect, and then follow the scent of his victim. A young Dassie is a sumptuous meal for the puff adder. The snake will be able to live off it for many weeks to come. By the time it has to go hunting again, the other young Dassies will already be too big for it. Fortunately for this nursery group. The daredevil is testing his climbing skills again. he audaciously goes for the most nutritious leaves. But pride comes before a fall. He's got a lot to learn before he grows up. The young cormorants are now fledglings. Their first attempts at flying often land them in the dangerous breakers. If they're lucky, they get washed up onto the beach. The exhausted birds first have to dry out and recover after their ordeal. The big kelp gull seizes the opportunity. It approaches cautiously. Even a young cormorant's beak can be dangerous. But the hapless cormorant is too weak to put up much resistance. Another young fledgling manages to get up again, despite the wind and wet plumage. The most important thing is to dry off quickly so it can fly again. The gull is persistent. But the cormorant doesn't give up either, and in the end, it actually manages to escape. The surf and the gulls claim a number of victims among the young birds. But many survive. And as soon as they're strong enough, they will reach for the skies and start their own lives. All these creatures must master the diverse challenges of growing up. The coming months will show whether the Dassie youngsters up here among the rocks will manage it too. Only around 1/4 of them survive the first year. With a little luck, the daredevil will also make it. Perhaps he will lead his own colony someday. More than a year has gone by. The wild little daredevil has grown into a juvenile male Dassie. With the mating season approaching, some things have changed. The clan chief of the rock colony is especially vigilant. Because the juvenile male, now sexually mature, is making his life rather difficult. The cocky young go-getter has only one thing in mind. And the females aren't much interested in hierarchy or supremacy. But the clan chief is much less tolerant. He chases away every grown male Dassie, including the young daredevil. He can clearly not stay in the rock colony anymore. But he's reluctant to give up his home as easily as that. The right to mate, however, rests with the head of the colony. So rivals simply haven't got a chance. The youngster will have to find a new place to call home. Perhaps here, in the lighthouse colony. But in this hurly-burly of alien bodies, how can he find a connection? At last, he spots another Dassie. And it's even a female. He begins cautiously. With him below, and her up above. He takes a chance on the next move. But she doesn't trust the stranger and disappears. Leaving only her scent behind her. But it's a scent he seems to fancy. Can he stay here? He likes the spot and marks it straight away. But someone is watching him suspiciously. The lighthouse colony clan chief may be old, but he still doesn't like the idea of rivals. With his neck hairs raised, he advances towards the intruder and stands there threateningly. Often that's enough to put other males in their place. And the young adventurer respects his territorial claim. He's only really interested in the female, after all. And who knows? Perhaps he might get a chance to start a colony of his own with her someday soon.